who look like us, or the Greys, or whatever.
Yeah, there are a lot of, a lot of these UFO alien encounter stories do have, most of them are consistent with the Greys, and you've got humanoid-looking aliens.
Right.
Physics in this part of the galaxy may be totally different from physics in another part of the galaxy. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a blob of jelly crawling around on a surface; it's still life to me.
Sure.
Of a barren terrain somewhere. Everyone is. I suppose science fiction over the years have helped us build our expectations of what life could look like outside our solar system. Everyone's expecting perhaps is, the Klingon Empire out there somewhere,
right,
or the Romulans, or, some other humanoid-based life form. And it could be totally different. I mean, we've got to remember there are billions of galaxies, other galaxies out there, which could sustain a life form that we couldn't possibly imagine, whether it's, organic or silicone-based, as you just mentioned, or pure energy, how do we define life? We've only got this planet to compare with. We haven't got any other planets yet. Even though we know there are other planets out there, we don't know, what kind of life exists out there.
Take me back to 1947, Roswell, New Mexico, as you see it. What happened?
Roswell, New Mexico, something did crash. Since 1947, there's been a mountain of speculation which has buried the truth. But the fact what the US military issued that first press release stating that they had a flying disc is, usually the first response is usually the true response. We're talking about trained military observers here, high-ranking military personnel who would know the difference between a downed aircraft and something else. So the fact that newspaper article came out within hours of whatever it was that crashed is definite indication to me that whatever crashed at Roswell was something so unusual. It wasn't anything what they'd encountered before. It wasn't Russian and it wasn't German. There are so many theories. And then you've had other personnel like Jesse Marcel that came forward in the 1970s to say it wasn't a weather balloon would come down.
But you see, I don't want to, you'll have to excuse me for interrupting here. But when it comes to Jesse Marcel, I don't give him any credibility whatsoever, and I'm going to tell you why. He was the base intelligence officer. He goes out to Brazel's farm, finds all this debris that he can't identify. He puts it into his vehicle, and instead of doing the professional, the absolute necessary point of bringing the debris from the ranch directly to the airbase and maintain the chain of custody, what does he do? He goes home, wakes up his wife, and wakes up his kid, and lets them manipulate the evidence.
That's a good point you raised there. Yeah,
that alone, in my opinion, as a former cop, blows that case wide apart. I'm sorry, scrap it.
You think Roswell, nothing crashed there?
Something did crash. Did crash. But
not extraterrestrial.
I don't believe so. Because we're looking at the end of World War II. We know that Fugos that were launched from Japan into the jet stream had made their way several times over into the U.S. In fact, there were people that were killed in, I believe it was the Washington State, by the incendiary devices that these Fugos dropped.
Right.
So that could be one possibility. Project Mogul is another possibility, and people like Kevin Randall and some other Roswell investigators are changing what they thought to be a UFO crash and are now re-examining the Mogul possibility.
Project Mogul was a project which monitored nuclear detonations in
high
the
altitude,
Soviet
that's
Union.
right. Yeah.
But didn't the Soviets not detonate their first bomb until 1949? That's when they first detonated their first atomic bomb.
I believe that Project Mogul was a preventative measure. After all, the Americans had dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki by this point.
Yeah.
The planes that took off to do the bombings, didn't they leave from Roswell?
Yeah, well, that was the first nuclear Air Force, the first response nuclear tactical bomber.
So it would only make sense to me that if I could create a nuclear weapon, that I'd want to make sure that my adversaries weren't trying as well. So that's another possibility. Like I said, the biggest bone of contention I have with the entire Roswell case or mystery or whatever you want to call it is the fact that Jesse Marcel, who was supposed to be the base intelligence officer, broke the chain of custody with the evidence. Once you do that, that case is no longer valid. Why did he think that this was extraterrestrial? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Nobody ever decided to ask hard questions. No one. Like, no. I've spoken to Stanton Friedman. I've spoken to Kevin Randall, Schmidt. The list goes on and on and on.
Have you spoken to William Moore? Because he was the one of the key authors in the Roswell incident when he brought the book out in 1980, was it?
I to be honest with you, to be honest with you, I'd have to check her guest list.
Yeah.
And then you had the alien autopsy film.
Oh, that was when I first watched that, I knew straight away that's fake. Yeah. I mean, Ray Santilli, who released that film, was just out to fool everyone anyway and make a ton of money from it.
That's exactly it. Follow the money. That's all you have to do, no matter what it is in life that you question. Just follow the money.
And did Jesse Marcel make a lot of money out of the Roswell?
I don't know, but I know Stanton Friedman is getting his more than his 15 minutes of fame, and he had a heart attack a couple of weeks ago, and I hope that he's doing well. But when it comes to asking questions, direct questions, everybody seems to back away. And when I speak to the other investigators and researchers about the fact of breaking the chain of evidence and custody of the evidence, they say, "Oh, gee, we never thought of that." Why not?
Yeah, well, hard questions need to be asked. I mean, some people do readily believe, without just on hearsay. And the Roswell story is one of those. What you said about Jesse Marcel breaking protocol, it's very valid. You've just given me food for thought.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people out there romanticize about Roswell, thinking, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if an alien spacecraft crashed?" And I'm doing it myself.
Sure.
Tales from Majestic, my short story series, is based in the wake of the Roswell incident and follows, the months and years after that, and I guess I'm no different from any other writer out there. I've been criticised for what I'm doing as sort of like trying to steer away from the truth, but
I don't think that anybody should fault anyone for the way they perceive an event. This is what makes us all so unique. This is what gives us the power of if. What if you're right and what if I'm wrong? You know?
Yeah.
But...
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, Rob. I mean, you know, it's all about the powers of belief.
That's right, and that is the strongest power in the universe.
Yeah, it is. You know, Roswell, what's your take on Rendlesham Forest? Do you think that something did crash or landed at Roswell?
At Roswell or Rendlesham?
At Rendlesham, sorry.
Well, once again, you're talking military, you're talking nuclear arsenals, you're talking high-risk areas, top security areas. Was it? What was it? Was it a craft from another country? Was it a reconnaissance craft? Was it a UFO, unidentified flying object? I don't know. I don't know. That one has quite a few questions that I can't answer. You know,
the problem with some of these cases now, Roswell and Rendlesham, is they happened so long ago.
Yeah.
And
why aren't they happening still?
Nothing new is happening. I suppose that's what's wrong with the UFO culture. I mean, there are so many people who believe but are disappointed at the fact that nothing is happening.
But you see, it's just not the UFO community. I see the same thing in people who investigate Bigfoot, the people who investigate ghost hauntings, unsolved mysteries, Oak Island, the pyramids, Atlantis, the Bermuda Triangle. Nothing new in 23 years of me doing this show.
And it's a bit of coincidence that it's started that things have started to go downhill since the birth of the internet.
Yeah.
Because what do you refer to the
the septic tank, the world's largest septic tank that man has ever created.
Yeah. And you have got loads of people with wooden spoons stirring that septic tank.
Not to mention dipping it in and tasting what's inside. Oh, that's a horrible thought.
You know, when you investigate something like UFOs or any other paranormal event, you do tend to believe your own stuff sometimes. You know?
Well, I've got to tell you this. We've got to also take our break very shortly. I want to believe. However, I want the evidence to fulfill my need in order for me to believe. Stand by, Jason. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exonation, our special guest all the way from South Wales tonight is Jason Chapman. All you have to do is Google him. Jason Chapman is the name. He's on, let me see, Facebook. He's got a blogspot, angelcommittee.blogspot.co.uk, and on Amazon. We'll be back on the other side of this short commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. MATSTEIN.com.